Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. My buddy Rhett. I've got a new almond for her. There you go, baby. And we are doing some coding. It is 8:29 a.m. on Wednesday. It's a day we like to call Hump Day. Like it's kind of like you've gone up a hill and then you got to the very top of it, and that very top part a lot of people call a hump. And then that means it's all downhill from here. It's something we just like. We tend to. I don't know if it's like this in the rest of the world, but we love words that are kind of associated with pictures. So I think most people imagine a hump whenever you say hump day, and then it sort of lines up with the way our calendar week works, with Monday, Tuesday being uphill, Wednesday being the tippy top of the hill, and then it's all downhill from there. So one of my favorite things about doing these videos is it's like I write like 10, maybe 15 minutes of code. I kind of talk about 45 minutes worth of talking about the code, which, in my career, it's sort of been inverted. Generally, I do like 99% writing code and 1% talking about the code, which, like how surprising is it if you do 99% coding and 1% talking about the code, that you might not be very good at talking about code. So I guess this is sort of my way of sort of inverting that so that I can make up for decades and decades of writing code without talking about code. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is it kind of gives me like, not only do I do 15 minutes, like three times as much talking about code as I do writing code, but I also do then like 23 hours of thinking about the code, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, thinking about, oh, okay, this is interesting. Why this? Why that? Blah, 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 blah. All that just to say that it was wild to me when I dawned on me this morning that delete, I sort of kind of cobbled together the full architecture of it, then went into a round of unit tests, and then I went into a round of end-to-end tests, at which point both of those shook out bugs, and I was able to do that. But this one, I'm taking such a different approach for edit or for update. I'm doing like little incremental fixes of everything in, and then making decisions along the way as to how to put things over, and I'm like highly polishing the pieces as I do them. And it was just like, oh, I wonder why I'm doing that so differently. Like, I don't know why I'm taking such an absolute reverse, almost the exact opposite approach as I did to delete. And it dawned on me this morning that it's because delete, I knew what delete was going to look like. I had a really good feeling. I've worked at plenty of places where we've implemented very, very good delete functionality. I want to write an editor that's better than any editor I've ever written before. I want this editor to be so flexible that I'll be able to not only edit, like, I want to be able to like paste in a mesh. I want to be able to paste in a light. I want to be able to paste in a whole scene, the whole visualization from top to bottom with multiple meshes. It would be super nice if I could paste in an STL, or can't remember what that other kind of um, file format is, that describes like all this, the lines and stuff like that. Like uh, the editor I want to build is way better than any editor I've ever built before. So I think that's why I have to take a different approach at it. And I don't think there is a good single approach to building software. And I think that um, at this point it is just I think if you were to say, hey, uh, I'm gonna get 10 people who do really good painting with still pictures, like you would if you investigated their process, and you would find that they all have different processes. Like, oh, this guy mixes his paints before that girl. She gathers up all her bottles and does a certain thing. Like, everybody has their own process probably for drawing the stills. But not only that, but if you were to ask them to draw a still of something that they've drawn 1,000 times, their approach is probably different than if you ask them to draw a still of something that they've never drawn before. And then, like, let's say they've drawn this thing, whatever, you're like, oh, can you draw me a really nice magnolia tree? And it's like, oh man, I've tried to do it like 10 times. I've never been real happy with the result. That they'll probably be totally different too. And I think that's the mindset I'm in right now is like, I've done a million editors in a million different ways. I've never been happy with a single one of them. So this one I want to do better. So, anyways, yesterday I had gotten to a point where the visualization was taking over the whole screen based on this viewer width and viewer height that's passed in. And that seemed good, but I was like, oh, where'd my visualization go? But when I was watching the video, I realized, oh, yeah, because it doesn't redraw the visualization when it reloads in edit mode. In update mode. So we probably don't want to be able to reload in update mode, but I'm not going to worry about that right now because I want to focus on getting the update working, and then making tweaks so that things work better. It's coming in the near future. So anyway, so that is going to be edit ID one. Okay, so that's good. So it is drawing. The problem yesterday, I was like, um, oh, why don't I have it? Why didn't it draw it? Well, it doesn't exist. That's why, because we reloaded. Um, so that is good. So now the next step, and it bothers me a little bit that I can't do that, but it might. I think this might be 7, but I think if I change this, I'll lose the memory. Oh, I can't even remember. Let's see. Let's go back to this view, update. Oh, that was still update 1. So yeah, I don't know why it didn't, like, when it redrew itself, it didn't rerun the code, but there wouldn't have been anything. There's no in the memory. Once it redraws it wipes out the memory. So anyways, what we would like is for this thing to be inspect the same size. So whatever this does, it however this gets it, it would be nice if that it will be required. Not nice, but it'd be absolutely necessary that this number mimics this number in edit view only. I could definitely imagine other views maybe in the future or other situations where I want to um, maybe tweak the size of this and then put some text or something on it, or who knows, there's just no telling what direction we might want to go with all of this stuff. So that is that. So let's try to figure out, okay, how does this canvas get created? And whatever it is, probably AppViz is going to be the first place to check to see. Because I honestly have no idea at this point. And I'm guessing AppViz is probably in here. Viz component. And let's see. Let's look for AppViz. Well, I definitely have my console. Oh, okay. So this is, yeah, where we change the height, and then render in native element is probably where we need to be. So let's go to this thing, go in here. Set size. Ooh, is it really going to be that easy? So basically, it updates to the ST width and ST size, which is probably not what we want. So we probably really want it to be able to know, like, okay, am I in an override situation? I'm trying to just think, like, I'm thinking out loud here. So basically, I think 99 times out of 100 at this point, ST render, ST width, and ST render, ST height is what we want to draw it at. But every once in a while, in some circumstances, we want to not show it in that. We want to show it in a different width and height. And so it seems like the first clue would be to do it in here. And I'm just kind of thinking out loud, or this kind of reminds me of something that happens all the time. And that's like, I said 99 times out of 100, we're going to want to show ST width and ST height. Now, when you're getting requirements as a developer, the 99 times out of 100 is less important to you than the one time in 100, because the one time in the 100 is what's going to make your code very difficult to maintain. So that's the piece that you want to be as careful as you want, is like, okay, how do I handle the edge cases? And you really would like to build like a simple, elegant solution that handles the edge case perfectly, or all edge cases perfectly, in such a way that makes sense. So I know I have a visualization service. So now I understand, if you're like, oh, okay, from 30,000 feet, we see this problem. We are at the ground level. We are saying, I hope we're at the ground level. I'm hoping that once you get to here, it just automatically, whatever render set size does, which I don't have the vaguest idea what that thing does. Um, and I guess it would be good, instead of starting a big coding thing, is just come up with like a way to test this. So if I made the width 100 and the height 100, I believe what will happen is that we will get the exact same view. It'll just be sitting up in the upper left. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't know. And we'll definitely have to go to this view to see. Okay. Yep. So that's exactly what I was hoping to see. So that means that if I pass it in, it's just automatically going to adapt to whatever width or height I put in. All right. So in this situation, every single time, I will end up at some point taking this and making it into a variable. So the question is like, I feel like what we want, and because I'm thinking now ahead to unit tests, right? I feel like I want to turn this branch into code. So I want to create a new function that does this. Render in native element. Um, update renderer, right? Maybe render might be a good name. Render. I don't know. And render is going to accept the renderer. And it's going to accept the st renderer. Now this, the main motivation, is going to return a Boolean. The main motivation for all of this that is motivating me to write this way, if I'm being completely honest, is the fact that I know I'm going to have to write a unit test for this. Let found equals false, and return found. And my renderer is of type 3 WebGL renderer. I can't believe how many WebGL things there are. It's crazy the stuff that you notice the more you become comfortable. I thought it said renderer. Oh, here. This is what it is. then ST renderer. And it's like I've worked at places where like they were really super familiar with the code and the concepts and all that, and then they were like bring me in, and they'll have like some super sharp, I mean just right out of school sort of genius developer, and that developer will be like, as we start to go through these processes that don't really have anything to do with being intelligent, they're just experience based, so I'm going through these processes, and then they're always fascinated by things. They're like, oh, this is so fascinating, oh, I can't believe this is like that, blah 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 blah. And then you're like and then they're like um, then they're like wow, you're not that curious, or he's really good at coding, but he's not particularly curious. And it's like, well, you can't be curious when you're first just being overwhelmed with new stuff. You get curious once you've sort of been around the block a few times, and then you're like, oh, what is that over there? Oh, it's just like, your first day of riding on the school bus, if you rode on a school bus, is not nearly as, you don't notice as many things as you notice like the last day of the school bus, where you're like, you just start noticing all kinds of stuff. Okay, so it looks like we need our element ref to, and we need our stid passed in. So I'm going to grab, okay, so yeah, I'll just grab both of these. Both of these get passed in. And like I said, once I get bigger, like here, I don't really like having four arguments, but or maybe, when I come back around, and I will, I'm sure I'll come back around during unit testing, especially, we will likely want to find that we'll, we may find a better way to do this. Like the stid might be in the st renderer. It wouldn't surprise me if an st renderer has a stid. So, as a matter of fact, that's how we got it. So, I probably don't need to pass that one in. But anyways, this should be easier to unit test than this would have been. Maybe not. We'll see. We might end up breaking like this into a function that returns true or false. Or we might create a function that does this if gets a true. So I don't know, but that's something that I do feel like we do have a time and place for doing that sort of deep analysis set aside already. Okay. So I'm confident that, I don't know, I don't know when. I'll probably want to add another thing that says like view override or something. I don't know. So let me just hit save. Just make sure nothing is broken. Doom, 8:48. Okay, so we have a few more minutes left. Where is it? Yeah, 8:48. All right. So now we want to set the width and the height. And does it only need the ST renderer for the width and the height? I think that's all it needs the ST renderer for. So we might not need to send in the ST renderer. We might be able to send in the width and height. But we need to make sure that it exists. Okay, so, but I do think it is, I don't know. I might end up regretting this, but width equals, and again, I'm like what I would call like jellyfish coding right now. Like I sort of have a basic idea of where I want to go, but I'm not exactly sure. So I'm just kind of oh, darn it. I didn't want to do this. So what I wanted to do is call this dot renderer and pass it in all the things. So I didn't even test what I had done. This dot renderer, st renderer, comma, element ref, and comma, stid. All right, let's just see if that works. So this just became much easier. This actual function became much easier to test. This is now the only trick to this one is this, I think. Maybe not. Maybe, yeah, we'll see. So that seems to be working as far as I could tell. Because we're just messing with the visual service, so that would mess up everything, not just edit. All right, so now we have this and this. Now, I guess this is a good time to see if, do we need to even send in the ID? I don't think we have to. I think we can just do this. Oh, it doesn't look like we have the STID. That's a bummer. Okay, so we do not, the renderer does not have an STID on it. This ST renderer. Kind of want to go over there and just check this. Go to definition. So in our dictionary, we get this ID. So the question is does the dictionary store by ST renderer ID? Is that how so we need to find, so no, it definitely uses the ST renderer ID as its key. So the ST ID and the ST renderer ID are the same thing, apparently, I think. Oh yeah, see, when I get the renderer ID, I pass, well, this one is just, I'm trying to figure out when I create it. Render by ID, get renders, delete renderer. How does this renderer get created though? Get base renderer. Okay. So it gets an ST renderer ID. We're trying to figure out what we're trying to figure out is if ST renderer ID is the same as STID. So here's where we create our ST renderer. Oh, and here's where we add it to the dictionary. And yes, we add it with an ST renderer ID. So let's go back. So just for the sake of, I'm going to change this to ST renderer. That doesn't do anything, right? Like this is just for my sanity. I saw a thing on LinkedIn yesterday, some guy making an article saying that like if you want to really understand code, you should develop in assembly. You have to do some assembler development. And it was just kind of like that person clearly only worked with um, actual compiled code, not um, scripting, because that would definitely not be particular. It would be interesting, but not particularly helpful to um, a regular scripting developer. All right, so now we have this render ID, so we know, and it works. So now I think we know that this is st renderer dot st renderer ID. And this definitely should not work, right? If it's wrong. Yeah. So let's say instead I give it just some gibberish number like 100. I believe this isn't like fully conclusive evidence that that I'm right, but see how nothing works, and it just starts throwing errors. Um, and I'm confident that since I was careful, very careful when I built this to make sure that everything gets that the IDs are distributed amongst all the different things. I don't believe there's any chance that this is a coincidence that it happens to be the right ID. It's going to be either the right ID or the wrong ID. I don't think it's possible that there's two different entities with the same ID in this system. All right, so then that means I don't even need this guy here. I don't think I can do anything without the element ref, though. I think the element ref has to come in. But so the next, I need to log off, but because I've worked in like 4 minutes. But the next step is going to be somehow figuring out how I pass in whether it should be an override or see, I think it should be like let is equal to. I always end up needing to do this in this situation, so let's just get it out of the way now and let height. See, we're going to want to calculate what the actual width and height should be. So that might end up being functions like that call, and then the function goes and sees, hey, are we in override mode right now? If yes, then return the st width. If false, then return the width of the element. I'm guessing the element has a width already. Maybe not, but we'll have to figure out what's next after that width. But I do know that this is a door. I'm just been here so many times. I know that we're going to want to turn this into function into values, and they shouldn't be constants. So let's just make sure that works. Yep, that works. Okay. All right, everybody. Happy coding. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Bye.